Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathashala. I am Professor P. Bhaskar Reddy, Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati. This is the module on the Sayyid and Lodi dynasties and silent features of the Delhi Sultanate, which this module come in the paper Outlines of Indian History. In earlier modules, we have discussed separately on the history of the Delhi Sultanate, dealing with the Mamluk dynasty, Khilji dynasty, Tughlaq dynasty separately, their history and their achievement. This module is also important on the Delhi Sultanate, which dealt on multiple themes. You will be able to learn at the end of this module to know about the history of the Sayyid dynasty, to understand the history of the Lodi dynasty, the disintegration of the Delhi Sultanate, the silent features of the Delhi Sultanate, their administration, socio-economic life, and also the evolution of Indo-Persian culture during the Sultanate in the fields of art and architecture, development of music, language and literature. With these objectives, let us start first to discuss the history of the Sayyid dynasty, when it was founded and their role in reviving the Delhi Sultanate. The Sayyid dynasty was the fourth dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate. The central authority of the Sultanate had been weakened by the invasion of the Turkish conqueror Taimur and his capture of Delhi in the year 1398. Kaiser Khan, who had been appointed governor of Lahore, Multan and Dipalpur by Amir Taimur, acquired the control of Delhi after defeating its de facto ruler Daulat Khan. Taking advantage of the confusion that prevailed in India after the death of the last Tughlaq Nasiruddin Muhammad Shah, Kaiser Khan marched on Delhi and occupied the throne for himself on May 28, 1414. This resulted the declining of the Tughlaq dynasty and it paved the way for the establishment of fourth dynasty, that is the Sayyid dynasty. Sayyid rulers ruled over the Delhi Sultanate for 37 years from 1414 to 1451. Kaiser Khan was the founder of this dynasty. He was a man of high moral character who combined him the qualities of a saint, soldier and politician. His kingdom comprising of Sindh, Punjab and some parts of Doab, but he did not assume sovereign title of Sultan and nor minted the coins of his own, but he professed to rule as the deputy to Taimur's son and successor Shah Rukh, to whom he probably sent occasional tributes. But his rule is important in the Sayyid dynasty. He was popular among the people of Delhi because of various public welfare activities carried during his time and a humanitarian approach to the administration. Mubarak Shah was the next ruler of the Sayyid dynasty. He was the son and successor of Kaiser Khan. During his time, he assumed the title of Sultan. That means he held the Delhi Sultanate with sovereignty. He was a competent military general and suppressed a few revolts during his reign. His successful expeditions against Mewatis, Katihar and the Gangetic Top resulted for the survival of the Sayyid dynasty and Delhi Sultanate. But Mubarak Shah was assassinated, unfortunately, by some of his own nobles in the year 1434. Thus, the rule of Mubarak Shah came to an end abruptly. Next ruler of the Sayyid dynasty was Mubarak Shah, who ruled in between 1434 to 1445. The power of the Sayyids declined rapidly after the murder of Mubarak Shah. The conspirators led by Savarul Mulk raised Muhammad Shah, a nephew of the deceased Sultan, on the throne. But the real power of the Sultanate was usurped by Savarul Mulk, the Wazir of the Sultanate. The Sultan was unable to combat the intrigues among the leading nobles. Taking his incompetence, Muhammad Khilji of Malwa and Bahulul Lodi became independent. He was in fact reduced to the pitiable position of ruling a territory which extended merely 40 miles around his capital. That means because of the internal troubles, the Sayyid dynasty was in declining stage. However, the last ruler of the Sayyid dynasty is Alauddin. Alauddin ascended the throne of Delhi with the title of Alam Shah. He also proved to be the last incompetent ruler of the Sayyid dynasty. He was unable to cope with the administrative problems, revolts, and already intrigues which already started during the earlier reign. Because of that, he retired to his personal estate at Badan. This provided an opportunity to Bahlul Lodi to capture the Delhi. The Sultan did not contest Bahlul's usurpation and formally transferred the sovereignty to Delhi. Thus, the 37 years rule of Sayyid dynasty came to an end in the Delhi Sultanate. The fifth dynasty came to rule over the Delhi Sultanate, that is Lodi dynasty. The Lodis ruled over the Delhi from 1451 to 1526, that is up to the beginning of Mughal rule in India. Now, let us start the Lodis and their rule, their achievements, and the Panipat War, and how the Lodi dynasty was declined. Bahlul Lodi was the founder of this dynasty. Lodis were the sultans of Delhi, which they ruled for about 75 years. Bahlul Lodi was the founder. Bahlul was a capable and ambitious king. In order to strengthen his position, Bahlul tried to win over the confidence of the army by distributing various gifts and bounties. Bahlul's most important achievement during his reign was the conquest of Sultanate of Jaunpur, which resulted extension of his territories. He consolidated his authority in the Doab region by suppressing the Rajput chiefs also. Thus, the Bahlul Lodi not only established the Lodi dynasty, and at the same time, he tried to revive the glory of the Delhi Sultanate. The next ruler of this dynasty is Sikandar Shah. Bahlul Lodi was succeeded by his third son, Nizam Khan, who took the title of Sikandar Shah. During his time, he defeated Hussain Shah, the former Turkish Sultan, and also the Sultan of Bengal in the year 1498, which resulted the further expansion of the Lodi dynasty. Another important achievement of his reign is the shifting of capital from Delhi to Agra. During his time in the year 1504, he shifted the capital of the Delhi Sultanate from Delhi to Agra, where it was a small village at the time, and later on it emerged as an important political and cultural center of India from this period onwards. Sikandar attempted to revive the contempt of the absolute monarchy by bringing the Afghan nobles under the effective control of the central authority. He set up an efficient espionage system to keep himself abreast of all the developments in his dominions and watch the activities of the disaffected officers. Sikandar Shah also suppressed the many rebellions that broke out in the kingdom, thereby restoring the respect for the central government. And even to suppress the rebellion activities, he did not spare even the haughty Afghan nobles. He insisted on proper auditing of accounts and punished defalcation and embezzlement with a severity. His patronage to the Muslim scholars helped the progress of learning also during the Lodi dynasty. He wrote several verses in Persian under the name Namde Palme of Gurlaki. Thus, Sikandar Shah's reign in the Lodi's history is important. He was succeeded by another important ruler and last ruler of the Delhi Sultanate, Ibrahim Lodi, who ruled in between 1517 to 1526. Ibrahim Lodi, it is known that the last, not only a last king in the Delhi Sultanate, he was the last king of the Lodi dynasty. Ibrahim wanted to strengthen his position at the cost of his nobles and adopted all measures to humble them. The nobles, because of his atrocities, hatched a conspiracy to declare his uncle Jalal Khan as the ruler of Delhi, but they failed. He put an end to his brother Jalal also, and also Ajam Humayun, the governor of Gwalior. He adopted a severe dictatorial attitude towards the old and experienced Afghan officers. Besides that, he openly insulted his own relatives, Daulat Khan Lodi of Punjab, Alak Khan Lodi, the brother of Sikandar Lodi. Because of his atrocities and humiliations, these suffered nobles started to make a strong resistance about the Ibrahim Lodi. Daulat Khan Lodi organized a movement against the Sultan with the support of the Afghan nobles. They sent invitations to Babur in Kabul to invade India and also to check the atrocities of Ibrahim Lodi. With the support of Daulat Khan Lodi and Alak Khan Lodi, Babur entered Punjab in the year 1525. Later, he occupied the throne and proceeded to Delhi. After reaching the Delhi, a great war occurred between the forces of Ibrahim Lodi and Babur, supported by the rival parties of the Lodi dynasty. That is the first Panipat war. Babur, in the war that ensued between these two forces, defeated and killed Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat. And the battle of Panipat ended the Lodi dynasty and brought the rule of Mughals. These things are known historical facts which the Delhi Sultanate, with the defeat of Lodis in the first Panipat battle, it resulted for establishing another new era in the history of India, that is the Mughals. So far, we have analyzed the history of the Delhi Sultanate since the establishment of Mamluk dynasty and up to the first Panipat war. In this period, 5 sultanates ruled over the Delhi, and during that time we saw the rise of the Delhi Sultanate and extension of their territorial limits on wider parts of India and also their decline. No amount of discussion would be complete on the discussion of the disintegration of the Delhi Sultanate. What were the causes that resulted for the declining of Delhi Sultanate, and it paved the way for the establishment of Mughal dynasty. Most of the Sayyids and Lodi Sultans were weak. Before that, the disintegration of the Delhi Sultanate started even during the reigns of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and even Firoz Shah Tughlaq. The process could not be checked by their incompetitive success even in the Tughlaq period itself. The weakness of the Delhi Sultanate was made even worse by Taimur invasion of Delhi in 1398. The Taimur invasion, regarded as the end of the strong rule of Delhi Sultans. Taking advantage of that situation, number of independent states came into set up in different parts of country with their independent powers. This resulted, besides, no substantial improvement was made in the fortunes of Delhi Sultanate during the reigns of Sayyid and Lodi rulers. They did not recover any territory that was lost or became independent. They spent most of their precious time in suppressing the internal revolts and problems of their own. In fact, their rule was confined only to Delhi and its neighborhood. Thus, it is correct to regard Sayyids and Lodis as phantom, unreal sultans of Delhi, which it resulted for the declining and disintegration of the 320 years rule of Delhi Sultanate. With this discussion on the Sayyid and Lodi dynasties and earlier the Mamluk, Khilji and Tughlaq dynasties, their role in history and their achievements, you have an idea about their history, but no amount of discussion on the Delhi Sultanate would complete without a discussion on their role in cultural history of India. They contributed a lot for establishing a systematic administration. They improved the economic and social activities. They also promoted the art and architecture. They contributed for the religious development. They contributed for the new trends in the Indo-Persian culture. Thus, we can start a new theme on the silent features of the Delhi Sultanate. It is known that the Delhi Sultanates not only extended their territories on over wider parts of India, but at the same time, they established a powerful and systematic administration to control their vast territories, so that they have a special features in their administration and their polity. Regarding the administration is concerned, the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate marked a new phase in the cultural development of the country. The expansion of the Delhi Sultanate led to the evolution of a powerful and efficient administrative system. The government established by the Turks was a compromise between Islamic political ideas and institutions on one hand and the existing Rajput system of government on the other. Consequently, many elements of Rajput political system, with or without changes, became part and parcel of the Turkish administration in India. In theory, the Muslim state was in a theocracy, that is, the head of the state was also the religious head and derived his position and authority from God. The Sultan did not owe their sovereignty to any earthly power. It is known that they followed a specific policies since the beginning up to their end. They neither considered the caliph nor the millet. It is known that the strength of the Sultan depended upon the personality and character. Whenever a powerful ruler present on the throne, the government was systematically arranged. Whenever the weak king was on the throne, it is known that history of the Delhi Sultanate that many revolts broke out, which it resulted for the succession of various dynasties. The government merely was based on highly centralized despotic principles. The Sultan occupied most privileged position in their polity. Alauddin Khilji, it is known that backed by a strong army, even he defied the Islamic principles of government. He made the ulema a subservient to him and declared that he was the state and he was the monarch. The Sultan was assisted by a number of dignitaries in the discharge of his functions in carrying the administration in systematic way. In that process, the Sultans of Mamluk dynasty constituted 4 ministerials at the top level. They were Wazir, Arij-e Mumalik, Diwan-e-Insha, Diwan-e Risalat. After some time, an extraordinary officer of the state, styled as Malik Nayab, the regent or the deputy sultan, came into existence. He played an important role in the Sultanate polity since the inception of that officer. Wazir was the prime minister in the administrative matters and his department was called Diwan-e Wijarat. He was assisted by 2 junior ministers, Mushrif and Mustafi. The Ministry of Defense was called Diwan-e Arij, headed by Arij-e Mumalik. Sadr Us Saudur was the head of the public charities and ecclesiastical department known as Diwan-e Risalat. Diwan-e Insha was the department of correspondence and records of the royal court. It was held under the charge of a central minister, variously known as Dabir-e Mumalik, Dabir-e Qas or Amir Munshi. Qazi-ul Qujat was the head of the judicial administration. Barid-e Mumalik was the head of the information and intelligence department. Wakil-e Dar looked after the royal palace and personal attendants of the sovereign. Amir-e Sikar, he organized royal hunts and all area where the Sultan went for hunting. Amir-e Majlis, he made arrangements for assemblies, feasts and special celebrations. Sar-e Jandar was the chief bodyguard of the Sultan. From the designations of the various ministerial councils in the Delhi Sultanate, it is the fact that the Delhi Sultanates concentrated to establish an efficient and powerful system by adopting a capable persons in various posts. And at the same time, by the appointing of several ministerials dealing with various departments, they tried to produce a systematic administration in all wings of their central authority. Besides the central authority, they also constituted a systematic provincial administration in the Delhi Sultanate polity. The provincial government was a replica of the central government. The Delhi Sultanate was divided into smaller units called Iqta, known as provinces. The provinces were ruled over by governors, called variously as Wali, Mukti, Nayab, and even sometimes he was also called as Sultan. The provinces were divided into shiks, that is known as districts, which they were kept under shikdars. Further, the shiks were divided into Pargana, which it was kept under Fauzdar. In the provincial administration, village was the smallest unit, which it was under the headship of Kot and Mukaddam. Thus, the Delhi Sultanate not only established a systematic central government, and at the same time, from provinces to lower level village also, they established systematic administration to control the provinces. One of the important contribution made by the Delhi Sultanate in the administration is concerned is their military organization. The military organization of the Sultan was based on the Turkish model. The strength and stability of the Sultanate depended upon its strong and efficient army. In that process, Iltutmish was the first Turkish ruler of Delhi who organized the central king's army. Later on, his successors Balban increased the numerical strength of the army and appointed an able officers on attractive terms. During the time of Khiljis, Alauddin Khilji maintained a large standing army on a permanent basis, and he did not disband the soldiers as soon as a campaign was over. That means he recruited the soldiers on permanent basis. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, later on, he introduced the system of dag or branding the horses in the military organization. The system of Chahra was followed, and the Arij continued to enroll the armies. These are some of the important features of the Delhi Sultanate and their administrative systems, though we have sufficient information on various aspects of the administrative systems. Let us know about what are the social conditions and the general nature of the society during the Sultanate, how they observed the tolerance among all sections of the people. The society of the Delhi Sultanate was a socio-religious one. The society was divided broadly into two groups, that is Muslims and Hindus. There was a little change in the structure of the Hindu society. The traditional caste system with the Brahmins on upper strata of the society was prevalent. There was no any change. However, the Muslim society divided into several ethnic and social groups. The Indian Muslims were excluded from the ruling hierarchy. Because of that only were the unhappy among various nobles. The Muslim ruling class generally divided into Khan, Malik, Amir, Sipah Salar and Sarikail. The Hindus during this period considered as a protected people, for which they were forced to pay the tax called jizya. The establishment of the Delhi Sultanate and their long rule of 320 years, it paved the way the consolidation of their power in various parts of Indian subcontinent. With the unification of India, it brought substantial change in the economic prosperity of the country, and also the Delhi Sultanates promoted the economic prosperity of the country by way of promoting agriculture, by promoting industries, by promoting the communication and developments, and so on. It resulted for acquiring prosperous conditions in Delhi Sultanate. Let us know about what are the important contributions for the promotion of economic life. The chronicles of the period paid attention in the events at the court than in the lives of the people. However, Ibn Battuta, who travelled widely all over India, has left very interesting account of the products of the country, including fruits, herbs, etc., condition of roads and life of the people. Ibn Battuta also says that the soil was so fertile to produce 2 crops every year, rice being sown 3 times a year. From the accounts of that, we get a lot of information about the nature of prosperity of the country, agricultural development and its products. During the Delhi Sultanate, the land was classified into 3 categories. The one is Ikta land, that is the land assigned to officials as Iktas instead of payment of their services. Khalsa land or crown land, that is the land which was under the direct control of Sultan. The Inam land or Waqf land, that is the land which assigned to the religious leaders and institutions. The main purpose of the categorization of the land is for the fixation of taxation. The Delhi Sultanate in the process of the promotion of the economic aspects, they also established a systematic taxation system during that period. The sultans collected different types of taxes such as zakat, jizya, kharaj, and khans, and we know on what aspects these taxes were collected. Irrigation tax, grazing tax, house tax, customs and excise duties were the other taxes which form an important revenue for the maintenance of the state. During that period, the taxes were allowed to pay both in cash and kind. For the improving of their taxes, the sultans undertook efforts to enhance agriculture production by providing irrigational facilities and by advancing takawi loans for different agricultural purposes. With the development of agriculture, with the good enough conditions prevailed in Andhra, it paved the way for the development of the trade, commerce and urban development and also various monetary developments in India. There was a definite economic growth in the country with the consolidation of Delhi Sultanate. The process of urbanization gained momentum. As a result, number of cities and towns had grown either as a religious centers or political centers or commercial centers. Among the important towns that grown during the Delhi Sultanate period, Lahore, Multan, Broch, Anhilwada, Lucknowti, Daulatabad, Jaunpur, etc. are the some. However, the Delhi, which was the capital of the Delhi Sultanate, remained the largest city. In the promotion of economic activity, extensive inland and foreign trade flourished. The period also witnessed a tremendous development in the trade and commercial activity of the age. Both inland and foreign trade flourished. Overseas trade was under the control of Multanis and Afghan Muslims. With the advent of the Europeans, it also helped for the further enhancement of the trade and commerce of the Delhi Sultanate. The inland trade was dominated by the Gujarat Mewaris and Muslim Bohra merchants. In the promotion of trade and commercial activity, dalals or brokers facilitated commercial transactions on a large scale. Sarais, that is rest houses, were maintained on the roads for the convenience of the traders who are moving from cities to coast. Particularly in the industry is concerned, cotton textile industry developed well due to the introduction of new techniques such as spinning wheel, etc. The production of paper was started by the Turkish in India. Later, it became very familiar for the usage of the country. Besides this, the building industry, leather making, metal working, carpet weaving and so on were increased considerably, which it resulted for the development of industrial activity and urbanization. With the development of these trade, commercial and industrial activities, it resulted for the development of monetary transactions also. The Delhi Sultanate, the system of coinage had also developed. In that, the Iltutmish was the first king who issued several types of silver tankas. The gold coins or dinars became popular during the reign of Alauddin Khilji. Muhammad bin Tughlaq experimented token currency besides gold and silver coins. By this extensive development in trade and commercial activity, the coins were also used plenty, and we have plenty of coins available to attest the prosperity of the Delhi Sultanate. Besides this, one of the important contributions made by the Delhi Sultanate to the Indian culture is in the fields of art and architecture, in the fields of literature and in the field of music. In these fields, with the advent of Persians, it resulted for the intermingling of Persian culture and also the Indian culture, which it resulted for the evolution of Indo-Persian culture. Let us try to understand what are the important features of the evolution of Indian culture in these fields. The Sultanate period marked a new phase in the cultural development because of the interaction between Persian and Indian cultures resulted in the birth of Indo-Persian culture. The Turco-Afghans were responsible for this cultural assimilation. In the cultural assimilation, the development of architecture was the greatest contributions of these rulers. To get clear perspective of the architectural achievements of the age, one should know the evolution of Indo-Persian style of architecture, which is visible in various structures that were grown or that were constructed during the Delhi Sultanate period. The Indo-Persian style or Indo-Islamic style of architecture, which was developed during this period, it is a combination of the clubbing of two architectural styles, that is Persian architecture and the Indian architecture, which is visible in the monuments of the period. Among the important structures of the age, the most magnificent monument constructed by the slave sultans was the Qutub Minar, which is a jewel ornament of India. Its foundation was laid by Qutbuddin Aibak, when later it was completed by Iltutmish. The Khilji period also witnessed hectic building activity. Alauddin Khilji was responsible for the construction of capital city at Siri, but only the remains of the city are found at present. However, the most important monument of his period is Alai Darwaja. This has been described as a treasure gem Islamic architecture of the age. It is known that this Alai Darwaja served as an entrance to Qutub Minar. Ghiyazuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, later Firuz Shah Tughlaq, also contributed a lot for the development of Indo-Persian style of architecture, which is visible in several monuments of the age. The Tughlaqs built huge palace fortress complexes in Tughlaqabad near Delhi. In that, the tomb of Ghiyazuddin Tughlaq at Tughlaqabad marks a new trend in the evolution of Indo-Persian town architecture. Later on, the Lodis, though they have not much significance in the cultural history, they also contributed for the development of Indo-Persian style of architecture. They are also responsible for the construction of several monuments. Besides these sultanates, the assimilation and amalgamation of the Islamic style and the indigenous style made its impact felt on the monuments constructed by their provincial governors at Jaunpur, Bengal, Gujarat and Malwa, where they are also witnessed the construction of several architectural monuments of the age. Besides art and architecture, one of the important development in the Indo-Persian architecture is the music. The sultanates showed special interest in extending patronage to the musicians, and because of that, various systems of music came to in India. The interaction between the Perso-Arabic and the Indian music resulted in the birth of Hindustani music in northern India. It was an important achievement of the age. The Turks brought a number of musical instruments like airs, modes and scales. In that, we have to specially mention Amir Khusro, who was a greatest poet and also an accomplished musician who introduced many ragas such as Ayman, Gora, Sanam, etc. Because of that, he earned the title Tut-hi-Hind, that is the parrot of India. He is also credited with having invented the musical instrument sitar, which became an important instrument in Indian musical system. Besides several musicians, the literary compositions and saints also played an important role in the development of music and fine arts in Delhi Sultanate. In that, Ragadarpam, an Indian classical work on music, was also translated to Persian at the initiative of Firuz Shah Tughlaq. The musical gatherings known as Sama, conducted by the Sufi saints, and singing hymns with the accompaniments of music by the Bhakti saints gave further stimulation of these two modes of music. One of the important contributions made by the Delhi Sultanate to Indian culture is in the field of literature. Their courts were adorned with many poets of various languages, including Persian, Arabic, Sanskrit and also local languages. And also they encouraged many poets to write chronicles dealing with their histories. Besides that, political aspects, Various poetical works are also contributed for the growth of literary activity in Delhi Sultanate. In the promotion of languages, the Persia was an important language. The Persian, a new language, was introduced with the arrival of Turks in India. The Turks adopted Persian as a language of literature and administration. In the promotion of Persian language, Lahore emerged as the first center for the cultivation of this. The Delhi Sultanates patronized learning and also literature. As a result, Delhi also became the center of activity of Persian poets and intellectuals. Among the important scholars of the age, as we already mentioned during the time of Khiljis and Tughlaqs, Amir Khusru was the most famous of the Persian scholars. He became the court poet of Alauddin Khilji and also enjoyed the patronage of Ghiyazuddin Tughlaq. Amir Khusru experienced with all poetical forms and created a new style of Persian poetry called Shabak-e-Hindi or Style of India. He was the author of several works. The important are Khaja-ul-Futuh, Tughlaqnama, Tariq-e-Alai occupies an important place in the Persian history. Besides the poetical works, strong school of history writing in Persian also developed and encouraged. The famous historians who wrote on chronicles are Minhaj-uz-Siraj, who was the author of Tabaqat-e-Nazri, Ziauddin Barani, who was the author of Tariq-e-Firozshahi, Shamsi Siraj Asif is the another one who was the author of the continuation of the work Tariq-e-Firozshahi. Besides the Persian languages, the Sultanate period also witnessed the further progress of Sanskrit language. Sanskrit language received due recognition. The Sultans extended patronage to it. They also took interest in translating many Sanskrit works into Persian. That is the important contribution of this age. The Sanskrit and Persian functioned as a link languages in Delhi Sultanate in politics, religion, philosophy, as well as being the means of literary production. Among the translations of the Sanskrit into Persian, Zia Nakabdi was the first to translate the Sanskrit stories into Persian. His work, Tutu Nama, that is the Book of Parrot, written in the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, proved very popular and translated into Turkish and later into many European languages. Sultan Zain-ul-Abidin, the ruler of Kashmir, had the famous historical work Rajatarangani of Kalhana. During this time, the great epic Mahabharata was also translated into Persian. The literary works of high quality were also produced in many regional languages. Thus, it resulted for the development of the literary activity with the patronage extended by the Delhi Sultanate, because many of the Delhi Sultanates were themselves masters in various fields. It was one of the important result of it. In the end of the module, let us brief about Delhi Sultanate and their importance in Indian history and culture. The first quarter of 13th century is a memorable period in the history of medieval India, for it witnessed the establishment of Delhi Sultanate. The 300 years of the rule of Delhi Sultanate was the well-marked period in the political history of India. The state set up by the Sultanates gradually developed into a powerful and a highly centralized state which for some time controlled almost the entire country. This period also marked a new phase in the cultural development of India. The interaction between Persian and Indian cultures resulted in the birth of Indo-Persian culture, which is developed considerably. Thus, a new cultural forces of Delhi Sultanate prepared the ground for glorious achievements of Mughals. By the discussion on the Delhi Sultanate in the 4 modules, I hope you may understood the Delhi Sultanate, their importance in political history, and also their achievements individually credited to their dynasties. And in the present module, we have discussed several themes dealing with the last two Delhi Sultanates, the disintegration of the Delhi Sultanate, their contribution to administration, economy, social life, and also their contribution to the development of Indo-Persian culture, particularly in the field of art and architecture, literary development, and music. Thus, I hope you may understood the Delhi Sultanate, the rule of 5 dynasties, and their place in Indian history and culture. Thank you.